Hello and welcome to our brand new series, The Best of FinTech. Now, over the course of lockdown, we moved into the virtual arena and we recorded a lot of content. As a result, we've collated the best snippets and stories from the virtual arena and put them into one tasty episode. Now, on today's episode, we're going to be looking at the best of African neobanks. It's a high growth region, and that means the FinTech is absolutely incredible. So tune in, enjoy the next half an hour, and I hope you have a great day.
We brought up earlier how maybe finance isn't typically one of the most human industries in the world. So, I mean, what does people do to try and remedy this quite significant issue?
Yeah, it's not even to us. It's not even activity that we do to paint a picture. The first thing we did before we wrote a single line of code, and we've done a lot of that, before we even started that, we wrote down our values. And we manifested some of those values. For example, our company name is people. Our logo has two human beings in it. The first person, who joined, Phil, our co-founder, he insisted to be called Chief Ethics Officer. How many fintechs have the number 2 guy to be an ethics guy?
Yeah.
So it's that core in our DNA. And then that drives everything we do. And yes, of course, we are a financial company and we are pretty hardcore technology guys. We're hardcore finance guys, hardcore lawyers and regulatory people. But what we really want to do is to make the people feel equal when they can pay just like everybody else. So we're not really here to solve just a payment problem. We want to contribute to the society level problems. So it is as core as it can get.
Yeah, and especially, we've seen within the UK at least, e-commerce has become almost critical to a lot of people's lives. Even generations that typically haven't been involved in e-commerce are now relying on it. So I imagine this is coming at a really significant time, in the future because of e-commerce. Now, with that in mind, a lot of fintechs start in one market, and after you've got significant market share, then slowly roll out across the board. But you're in a significant number of countries in very disparate regulatory boards, everything like that. So how have you navigated the regulatory headache of operating in so many different countries and so many different cultures?
Well, we have to start by saying we don't think it's actually a headache. We may be masochists, but we actually love regulators and we love regulations. And there's a good reason. They're just trying to protect the consumer. And that's 100% aligned what we want as well. And we also need to be a bit sympathetic towards the regulators. It's extremely difficult to write up regulations around financial world. And we know it firsthand. So Phil, the other co-founder, he's worked at the most senior positions in 2 different regulators. So we understand their struggle as well. Their heart is always in the right place. It's just really, really difficult. Yeah. So with that in mind, we still decided to say that our 25-25 strategy, which is to be in 25 countries by end of 25, we said, okay, let's just do it nonetheless. And everybody thought we're crazy, but interestingly enough, we're actually on track. We might even be faster than we thought. And we don't really see anybody else having that kind of an regulatory pipeline because it's just difficult. And you need to be a little bit mentally ill to jump on this one. And then, that's it. And then, of course, another part that is so fascinating, what keeps us going is when you're in multiple countries, you start seeing these different cultures coming together. And for example, even in our own user base right now, we can identify about 20 different, completely different ways of using the people product. And we knew actually that this would become the case. So from the telecoms background, we absolutely knew that one size fits all in this region, it's doomed to fail. Yeah. So we decided to build for 4 years our own technology platform in a way that it's actually, while it looks the same, it's just an app and so on, but it's customized for every single user slightly differently. You receive slightly different notifications. You have different services depending on the country, demographics, and so on. And then we started seeing it. There's customers coming from 106 different nationalities.
Let's talk a little bit around the customer onboarding process, because I mean, traditionally in South Africa, you've got your big ABSAs, your Nedbank. You go into branch, you show your ID, you fill out a long form with a pen and paper that then get. What's the onboarding process? How do people become a customer out in South Africa?
So we've spent a lot of time looking at our onboarding and trying to make it as simple and intuitive as possible. And we've built a lot of back-end tech on this. So what you end up with is the ability for a client to join the bank in as little as 5 minutes. You only have to go through 31 clicks to join the bank. And if you benchmark that, I think across all of the banks, I mean, we're better than most of the banks in the world.
Have you seen the Built by Mars, their study? That it's like the number of clicks to do that. It's incredible.
Yep. So we actually looked at that exact study, and we're second on that list in terms of that. And the way we've done it is we've integrated with a lot of different partners, with a lot of different agencies, government agencies, etc. So we can actually go through the process. We've got proprietary facial recognition technology in our app. So it's not the Apple stuff, it's our own stuff that you use. We check for liveliness. So when someone joins, we'll ask them to blink or to smile or to do something. So we check that it's actually you. Then we take your picture and we verify it against 3 or 4 different agencies. So we check against passport, we check against your ID document, we check it against any other FICA document you have in the country. We then independently verify your address from a financial information perspective. We check you against all of the anti-money laundering lists, both in South Africa, the US, and its sanction lists. All of that stuff is done digitally and immediately in real time. So when we say in 5 minutes you're a bank client, you are fully fledged. There is no other thing you need to do other than wait until the next day when your card arrives. But essentially you can start transacting because we've got all of that security information, all of that completely digitally, all done.
And that is pretty bloody impressive.
I mean, we've taken it even a level further. I mean, just to get your Vitality Money status, we integrate with all of the credit bureaus. We've even integrated with a company that does valuations, does digital valuations of properties, etc. So when you put in your details in our app, we can, and you say, I want to activate Vitality Money, and you give us consent. We will go pull all of that information together and almost give you a digital balance sheet of what you are right now and what you need to do to go forward. So the entire program is really on this financial backbone and digital backbone that we've built that's quite powerful.
Personally, I'm a very big advocate of payment choice. I think a lot of the kind of movements to remove cash, I think that does cut a lot of people off. But at the same time, by having the biggest flaw with cash is there's no record of it. And then when you start to get a record, you then start to get a bit of, you can start to build credit. What's the opportunity there? What's kind of the product offering of this digital bank in a nation where there's 100 million people using predominantly cash?
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's in two folds. There are quite a lot of people with banks. I mean, with bank accounts. So we have about 50 million unique bank accounts, but there's still quite a lot of people without bank accounts. So we need to be able to cater for both, because even those guys with bank accounts are not necessarily fully banked. So there's still a lot of work to do to make banking more rewarding for them, which will entice them to be able to do more banking. So in Africa and in emerging market, a lot of things comes down to affordability and access. And it's very, very difficult to, with the old way of banking, to have branches absolutely everywhere on every street corner. It's just, just not financially viable. And then also that also is, brings us in, to the question of affordability. If we're spending so much money on sort of these physical infrastructures, we need to be able to fund them sustainably. Hence why typically traditional banking does cost money, because they have to run these operations. So what Kuda has been able to do is just remove this element and then make it accessible via phones and internet, and that way we're also able to remove the cost of the operations and transfer that cost savings back to the customer in the form of sort of free banking and and just a lot more affordable banking. So the opportunity is big. So we're tackling the two things: access and price. And we're starting to see a lot of progress. We see even within our institution a lot of people that didn't operate within the financial services actually opening bank accounts, as well as obviously the existing guys that have bank accounts. A lot of them switching to this kind of easy to use, no fee type banking. So the market is absolutely enormous.
A lot of neobanks are startups. They're not businesses yet. They're still not sort of profitable, and they are relying a lot on VC funding, which is absolutely fine, because I know there's some very big long-term goals. What's your kind of your roadmap in terms of business model, in terms of getting revenue in and becoming a profitable company that is again delivering the bank of the free?
Yeah, so look, there are different models, and when you look at digital banks, and depending on the region you're in, it's if anybody asks me, I think it's more suited to emerging market than sort of more developed markets, just because if you're removing fees, it becomes very difficult to monetize as a bank, unless you start doing risky things like issuing credit and whatnot. But in emerging market, and we've seen it successfully in other parts, the biggest, I think, digital only bank outside of China is in Brazil, and they leverage on the sort of typically high interest within emerging market. So you can earn on low risk securities, low risk government securities, double digits interest. When you do issue credit, you can earn significant more credit. So it's really suited to an emerging market, just because of also the ability to monetize on credit, the ability to monetize on things like bills and airtime purchases. So we make money. We already have revenues. So it's not just free banking blindly. So our goal is to be able to provide a service that is free to the consumer, and then for us to keep figuring out the best ways to utilize the consumers and the deposits that they keep with us, to be able to monetize those. And the best way to do that is also by extending credit to people that need it immediately. And that's effectively what a bank actually is. You take money from somebody that doesn't need it immediately, and you extend it to somebody that needs it immediately, and you make a little spread on top called interest. And that's really the model that that we have here at Kuda.
I mean, Turkey, crypto, we got to talk about crypto, because that obviously is a big deal in Turkey. 1 in 5 people using it. And I believe the Turkish Capital Markets Board now even started creating legislation. What, you guys obviously are partnered with our friends at Binance, so customers can buy and sell different cryptocurrencies. What's the approach to that, and what's your customers' reaction to using this?
Yeah, it's again related with engaging to the world. Okay, if you look at so in the country, let's check just the investment opportunities. Okay, you have the currency in Turkish lira, there are different currencies, and we know the situation of Turkish lira fluctuating, and so people wants to invest in different variety of investment products. Crypto is one of them. People feel engaged to the world. And also, I will just talk about later on, we are trying to give the freedom of investing in other stock markets and etc. is coming, by the way, our super product on the way. So this is related, again, engaging to the world. And people in Turkey wants to invest different type of investment products, and crypto is one of them. Also, the high revenue opportunity is another flavor, by the way, for the Turkish people. That's why, the demand to the crypto is still rising, by the way. If I check our transactions, okay, how it's growing, if you want to give an example is number. When I look at the growth year over year, I can say that it's 4 or 5 times still growing year over year. It's pretty high. We are not the only solution provider, by the way, for crypto. There are a couple of banks also banded that barrier, and they are working with different crypto exchanges, local or multinational ones. Binance was one of them. We are happy to launch because they entered Turkish market, expanded Turkish market. Firstly with Papara. Maybe you haven't heard about that, but nowadays, Bitpanda is again one of the biggest ones. Launched Turkish expansion recently, I think last week. We again enabled them to launch in Turkey with the help of Papara. Papara is the only top-up method. Bitpanda also. Again, we believe in that. Okay, there is no any legislation in Turkey, but we have some rules for that, and we know how it works. We know what kind of risks we are carrying on. That's why we are careful, and we learned it very well. If you look at the financial markets in Turkey, the interest rates are fluctuating. Okay, investing in Turkish lira, investing in other currencies, and the interest rates. People look at the investment opportunities and think that if I invest in Turkish lira and keep money in the bank for a certain period of time, how much am I going to win, and what is the price and what is the risk? On the other hand, they see that there's another opportunity over there. You can invest for small, tiny amounts for free of charge. There's a system here. You can open your account digitally, and they try it. What we see here, in the pandemic, people are on their home. They are working here. They're most engaged. They use their mobile, and they read much more. And people get affected from each other, and they want to invest different type of products. And for the future, in the pandemic, lots of the people think about that, the local financial markets. How is it going to? What is the effect of the pandemic to the markets, stock market, and etc. People tendency for the investment is adding some flavor to their investment options. So crypto was one of them. So in pandemic, we haven't seen any jump. We always see continuous growth in the investment, and we believe in that it will grow like that for a long time also.